Hey, St. Peter, and welcome to week 4 of Becoming Hungry, our parish-wide series on fasting. We have covered a lot of ground in this series. In our first week, we talked about fasting as a way that we prepare, not only for Easter, but for what lies beyond Easter. In week 2, we talked about fasting as a sacrifice. Jenny DeVasto talked about how it is a response to God's love, and we participate in Jesus' sacrifice on the cross through our fasting. Last week, Mike Swatsky talked about fasting as rest, as a way that we see creation's goodness and we simply rest, becoming present to it. This week, I am very excited to welcome the one, the only Father Charlie Archer, who's going to talk a little bit about healing. Father Archer, thanks for being here.
Great. Thank you, John. It's great to join you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, healing. This is a kind of odd concept, but I guess I want to start with the very, very basics. What does healing mean? Are we talking physical healing, kind of mental healing, spiritual
Sure.
healing? What does this word mean? Help me out.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Healing is a great topic, and it's one close to my heart, I would say. Pope Benedict XVI, one of the quotes that I really appreciate by him, is he said, "When understood at a sufficiently deep level, healing constitutes the entirety of the Christian faith." And so one way that we understand healing is that's what Jesus came to this world to do. He came to heal our relationship with the Lord so we could be reunited with his Father. And he came also to heal us, not simply so that at the end of our life we skate our way into heaven, but that even in this life we may experience his abundance. As he said in John's Gospel, "I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." And so healing takes place on different levels in every facet of the human experience. That on one hand, healing does pertain to physical healing, to growing better and stronger. And I imagine some of what Mike has talked about with with Exodus 90, the way that physically fasting can be healing and detachment from bad things and attaching to good things. But even more so, more profoundly, healing is a spiritual reality, that our soul can be healed in such a way that we taste the freedom, the abundance that the Lord desires for us.
Ooh, okay. So it is certainly more than just physical curing we're talking about. There's a spiritual dynamic going on underneath all of it.
Yes. I'm a very spiritual guy, so
I like it. Comes with the territory, part of the gig.
It
right?
really does. You at least have to pretend sometimes.
So, how does healing then connect to fasting? Here we are in the 4th week of Lent. We've been in this fast for a while now. We have a couple weeks to go. How does healing come from our practice of fasting? How do they connect in any way?
Sure. Yes, to answer that question, I'd like to go back a little bit to understand specifically what it means for healing to be spiritual. From the moment we're baptized, really from the moment we're created, what are we here for? All of us have a deep longing for that intimate, abiding, eternal communion with the Holy Trinity. And every person in different ways throughout our life, we live out this longing for communion. And so people get married, people pursue jobs, people engage in community life, that we desire for that intimate love and knowledge that only properly exists in heaven. And as we grow, from the time that we're children, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we're not there yet, right? That we're still here on this earth. And while we're on this earth, in different ways spiritually, we get wounded. And a wound is any experience we have, negative experience, of not receiving love in the way we desire to receive love. So a good example of a spiritual wound is if someone, let's say that they had a challenging relationship maybe with their father growing up, and they only received affirmation from their father when they, performed in an exemplary way on the sports field. Well, then likely as that young man or young woman grows older, he or she will have sort of a wound of thinking, I am not enough, or I have to earn affirmation, I have to earn love. Healing comes when we recognize the truth of the gospel. In the case of that particular lie, I am not enough, the truth that you are beloved for who you are. And you don't have to earn God's love. You don't have to prove yourself in order to become worthy of God. but in fact, you are enough simply for who you are. And so, what healing is allowing the gospel to define our lives, fundamentally, the truth of our own belovedness in God's sight, more so than any negative experiences that we carry from our past. And so, that gives us a context to approach a question then about fasting and healing. And fasting is particularly helpful, a very helpful practice for healing, because often when we are in a broken place, in a wounded place, especially spiritually, we will seek out comfort and affirmation in different ways. You can easily seek to kind of anesthetize the pain, that you seek you just want to numb out, you want to look for the painkillers in your life. This could be doing TV shows, it could be food, it could be all kinds of different activities, some sinful, some kind of innocent enough in themselves. But by fasting, we push out those fillers that we have, and that really opens up the space to have a deeper perception of what's really going on within our hearts. Like, what are the things that truly disturb me? And it's by getting in touch with those deeper places of brokenness. When we bring those to Jesus, then the deeper healing and the deeper grace can come in. And so fasting is really about creating the space for true healing to happen.
That's beautiful. That's challenging too.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of, in our reading excerpt from Bob Schuchts this week, he talks about the story in the Gospel of John where Jesus approaches the man at the edge of the healing waters and says, "Do you want to be healed?" And Dr. Schuchts kind of pulls that apart and says that question is for all of us, because we all are attached to these desires, these painkillers, like you said, and some of them are innocuous, some of them are bad, but it's hard to let go. It's hard to fast from them. In your experience, why do you think it is that hard? Why do you think that not all of us want to be healed?
That's a great question. I think fundamentally, and that is really the million-dollar question, do you want to be healed? If we don't want healing for ourselves, it's really hard to love another person in a way that will be healing for them. And so it's important that we desire the Lord's healing for ourselves. Before you can let go of something that you're clinging to, you often want to know that there's something good that you can grab in its place. And so with my little nephew Vinny, if he is playing with something he's not supposed to play with, I'll pull out my car keys every time. And he loves the sound of the keys, and then he'll drop whatever he's playing with and he'll go after the keys. And so it's really hard to fast if we're just fasting for fasting's sake. But if we can let go of those things in our life that really do cause us distress or kind of a shallow emptiness, even though they feel good in the moment, we find that we're able to embrace more deeply the abundant life that Jesus offers. And it's not filled with the more superficial gratification. It takes silence. There's a certain pain that's involved in getting to that place. But if you can enter the silence, if you can enter into that spirit of prayer, there's such a richness that unfolds before us. And that's truly what it means to be healed.
So, given that we all have these attachments and that we need something outside of ourselves, we need God to dangle the car keys of his healing love, given that it's so hard, given that it's challenging, what's an easy first step toward this?
Great question. I would say first and foremost, just going to the Adoration Chapel and spending time there. That you're never going to see the keys, the proverbial keys, of the good stuff God wants for you if you don't put yourself in a place where you can encounter him. And so the first step is simply to go and to take some time there. Take 30 minutes. Just take an hour even of just time resting with God. Let yourself be there in the silence. Maybe read a good book for a portion of it, but just listen to him. And that's always the first step. There's also the book which you excerpted for this week is Be Healed by Bob Schuchts. And that's an excellent book. I use it all the time as I'm counseling people. And Bob Schuchts especially is a great inspiration for much of my preaching and writing. And so I can't recommend his work highly enough. So if you're a reader, Be Healed by Bob Schuchts would be the thing to do. If you're more of a podcast listener, he has a podcast as well called Restore the Glory, which is him and another Catholic therapist speaking about what it means to enter more deeply into healing. And there's a podcast more geared towards women called Abiding Together, which is kind of the sister podcast of Restore the Glory. And so that's also a great resource if you want to begin diving into the healing journey and what that could look like in your life. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being on this. Thank you for your priesthood. I know this is a topic near and dear to your heart. I've seen it in your ministry. So thank you for all of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And thank all of you for watching. We do have some good content. As Father Archer mentioned, Bob Schutz is our spiritual writer for this week. And our saint of the week is Saint Teresa of Avila, someone who experienced quite a bit of healing in her life and also exemplifies this fasting, this ordering our attachments or detachments from the world. So read up, fast, and let's continue our Lenten journey. Let's see what God has in store as he endeavors to heal all of us with his love, with his goodness, and with his mercy. Amen, St. Peter?